archery, anything. I have the gear. I know the basics about the gear, but I'm not a gear nut. It just has never been one of those things for me. And having Kenny in my back pocket to always ask questions before I buy anything, or I'm interested in buying something, he'll tell me 5 different things and why this is good and why this one sucks, or why this is good and why it sucks. But, the pros and cons. Great episode. Kenny is an amazing dude, and I really appreciate you always answering my questions pretty much immediately. And there'll be more gear episodes with Kenny coming up here. Episode 39, the Tupper Lake Triad, Coney Mountain, Goodman, and Mount Arab. That was just a quick, spontaneous winter hike. It was a nice day. I decided after lunch, I'm going to go hike the Tupper Lake Triad because those mountains are fun, and it's a fun day going from one to the other to the next. I like that. I've done it before, and it makes for a fun afternoon. Highly recommend it, especially with kids or if you're new to the Adirondacks. The views are awesome. They're nothing like what you're going to get in High Peaks, but they're still absolutely fantastic. A+. The following episode, Summit Sessions number 3 with Eric Schlimmer, an Adirondack legend. So the reason I called this episode Eric Schlimmer, an Adirondack legend, is because not one, not two, but 3 different people that I mentioned that I was going to have Eric Schlimmer on the episode, all of them said, "Oh, that dude's a legend. Oh, that dude's a legend." And he would be the first person to tell you he is far from a legend. But he absolutely is. Very accomplished hiker, more than anyone I know. And he is also an accomplished author, writing all about the ADK. He has tons of books. Check out Beechwood Books, BKS, beechwoodbks.com, and pick up some of his books. He also created the Trans-Adirondack Route, which we'll get to as well. But that was that, Summit Session number 3. Summit Sessions number 4, Ultra Hiking with James Griffith. The man is an absolute savage out on the trail. And what I like the most about his story is he's done all the Northeast Ultra 8. He's always out hiking with people. If you want to hike something and you're nervous, you want someone to come with you, hit up James. He'll most likely, if he's available, he's down for anything. He's got absolutely an amazing dude. He came through in the clutch for me on the Northville Placid Trail, him and his girlfriend Sarah. And in this ultra hiking episode, he talks all about what goes into these long hikes, whether it's the Lake Placid Ultra Niner, or it's the Great Range Traverse, or it's these long hikes, the Cranberry Lake 50. Yeah, so basically James's story in a nutshell is he hiked Mount Marcy and couldn't walk for a few days after. It was just so brutal for him. And then fast forward 3 years, and he's doing 50-mile days out on the trail. So it's amazing what your body can do when you want to, and when you work for it a little bit. Moving on, Summit Session number 5, Bushwhacking the ADK with Sam Perkins and Spencer Morrissey. Now, these are 2 dudes that I would like to have back on the podcast to do another episode. I'll have a lot more ideas with bushwhacking and off-trail travel here in the ADK. And those 2 are just, that's what they do. They're always off-trail. They've experienced everything. Well, actually, they'll be the first to tell you they haven't experienced everything, because you can never experience everything in the park. But yeah, they've hiked more mountains than I can count, and off trail. And Spencer has also bushwhacked all of the 46. I think he's like number 2 or something on that list, or number 3 or 4. Absolutely incredible. Summit Session number 6, the Northville Placid Trail, start to finish with Miss Danielle Roots, RN. This was a fun episode, and at the time when it came out, this was my favorite Summit Sessions episode, because I had this idea where I wanted to talk about the Northville Placid Trail, but I wanted to hear a story start to finish, kind of like what I did with the Season 1 and Season 2 and the Northville Placid Trail season I did, where I just tell my story start to finish, every day, every mountain, what I experienced, what I saw. And Danielle was perfect for it. She did an absolutely fantastic job. And my vision came to life completely all through her. On that episode, we went through the entire map, start to finish, day by day, start to finish. And if you are interested in hiking the Northville Placid Trail, this podcast has so many different episodes that you can learn all about that trail, but that's a good one to start with. At the end of that episode, you'll be extremely familiar with the map, because we go through every single part of it. Every lean-to, every lake, every river, every crossing. It's awesome. Great job on that, and that was a very fun episode. Still really stoked about that episode. Episode 44, we're into April. And at this point, I have been out of work and home per COVID for a month. So yeah, we're cranking out episodes now. This is episode 44, Scarface Mountain, the most underrated hike in the ADK. And I stand by that. Scarface also often gets a lot of flack because there's not summit views. You know, it's a completely wooded summit. However, it does have a very nice lookout, and before you get up to the summit, which is a big rock, and that's the place to eat lunch, and you're overlooking the Seward Range and the Sawtooth Range in the western high peaks. It's a great spot. But the Scarface Mountain, the woods on that hike are really fun, and this was like a springtime hike. When we did it, it was the spring, I should say, not when the episode came out. Well, I guess actually both. It was spring and when I hiked and when the episode came out. But this was also the day where Josh and I decided, let's do the Northville Placid Trail. I'm home, not working. You're home, not working. Let's do that. So that actually is where the idea and the wheels started churning about doing the Northville Placid Trail, which has been on my list since I first started this podcast. It's like, this would be a really cool season, doing the Northville Placid Trail and turning it into a whole season on the podcast. A little foreshadowing on what's going to happen here. But yeah, Scarface Mountain in Raybrook, highly recommend it. It's a fantastic hike. It's not very difficult, not a big mountain, but I find the woods that you walk through, the huge pine forest and the spruce trees everywhere that looks like you're walking through giant Christmas tree farm. It's awesome. Highly recommend it. All right, moving on to May 1st. The Adirondack Campfire Stories are back with Don't Cross the Bog After Dark. Now, this was another episode that took me a long time to write it. I kept changing things and rewriting it and changing this and changing that. And then eventually it came out. This is just a fun story about something down at the Cooksacrogga Bog. And if you've ever been to the Cooksacrogga Bog, I'm sure you can understand why that area made me say, this needs a campfire story. This is such a little bizarre kind of a swampy spot. And that's a very fun episode. I had a great time making that episode. It is completely true. Maybe it's true. Maybe it's not. You'll have to listen to it, though. Episode 45, Adirondack Campfire Stories, Don't Cross the Bog After Dark. But whatever you do, don't step in the water. All right, episode 46, Summit Sessions number 7 with Amanda Riggs, 552 high peaks, the ADK grid. This is an impressive feat. She's not done yet, but she's getting there. She's very close. Hiking the grid is hiking all 46 high peaks in every month of the year, and it's becoming an increasingly popular challenge to tackle. But by the end, you'll have done 552 high peaks. An absolutely incredible feat. And only a few people have actually accomplished it. So that's why it's another goal that it's pretty wild to see people doing it. Not so much wild to see people doing it, but wild to see people like almost there. I believe, if I recall correctly, she's over 400 high peaks in, which is amazing. She's an absolute animal out there. Moving on, May 15th, Summit Sessions number 8, an unexpected overnight in the Santanonis with Jay Morrison. Jay is a terrific dude. Again, a person that I've actually never met. I've never met so many of these people that are on this podcast. I've never met any of you in person, but shout out to all of you. Thanks for taking the time out of your day and schedules to come on my humble little podcast and tell your story. I really appreciate it. Jay has a YouTube channel called ADK Woods Walker. Check it out. Jay had a night where they got caught, trapped out in the Santanoni Range. They got off trail. It was dark, and they spent the night just on the side of the trail. They made a little makeshift camp, makeshift tent, and exactly what you can picture being stuck in the Santanonis and being caught overnight and having to stay the night. You can learn a lot from that episode. I highly recommend checking it out. The next episode was the Pitch-Off Traverse, exploring an old mountain in a new way. What was fun about this episode is I've been up Pitch-Off many times, but I have never been up it from the Pitch-Off East trailhead. So I hiked this mountain in a whole new way and experienced it like for the first time again. And it was just awesome. That hike is so good from that trail. It's just so open and so many views so often. It's really nice when you visit an old friend and get a whole new experience from it. Moving on, this might be my favorite Summit Sessions story to date. This is episode 49, Summit Sessions number 9, Becoming a 46er in 1 year from 350 miles away with John LaFrenara. John has a heart of gold, such a nice guy. His story really resonates with me because it's a story of persevering and pushing through your limits, both physical and mental. And I think to me that's what the mountains do. These mountains do, and that's why I find I enjoy people's 46er stories so much, even though some people like to crap on the whole idea of becoming a 46er. But I crap on that idea. I think that's stupid, and I think what people do about pushing themselves and overcoming their limits to do it and growing and evolving as a person and as a hiker and as a human being, I think what these mountains teach people is incredible. And John did exactly that with his story. It's an amazing story of just being punched in the face time and time again from these mountains, and he was still making the drive from Buffalo because he set a goal and he accomplished the goal. He could have easily quit and not accomplished the goal, which was becoming a 46er in 1 year, but he didn't, and he kept going. And I think there's just so much to learn from that. So big props to you, John. And I also really appreciate the support that I always get from you. Moving on, Summit Session number 10, the backpacking and NPT gear episode with the Talking REI catalog himself, Mr. Kenny Kendall. Kenny came back to grace us with some more backpacking specific gear talk, and I was just finishing up with the Northville Placid Trail when we recorded this. This was back in June, and I was editing the Northville Placid Trail season that we're about to get to. But that episode we go through mainly backpacking stuff, tents and things like gear and cookware and sleeping bags and the whole shebang. If you're a gear guy, that'll be another episode you want to check out, episode number 50. Moving on, episode number 51, another Summit Session number 11, the Trans-Adirondack route start to finish with Marilyn Marchand. Marilyn is an absolute animal as well. She is the I don't remember what finisher she was. I think she might have been the 5th finisher of the 240-mile Trans-Adirondack route, but she was the fastest known time holder, although she wasn't going for that. She just crushed it, and that just happened to be the case. She averaged like 24 miles a day for, 10 days. Yeah, it's a really fun story, and another one of those stories where perseverance and seeing what you can do really came into play. And here we are. This is what I was excited about. The Northville Placid Trail season, starting with episode 52. It's 20 degrees out here, and day 1 of the Northville Placid Trail is officially underway. We're coming up to the Alluska Lean-To, walking along the cold river, and it is raging today. We're here in this season. I go through the entire hike, start to finish. This was my story. It wasn't a through hike. It was a section hike. But I made the plan to section the entire Northville Placid Trail here in the spring while I'm home, not working, not knowing what's happening out in the world. You know, I have young kids, so it's like getting away for 8, 10, 12 days, whatever it might be, is not so easy, especially when I already travel for work to begin with. So I had to section it. And this is my story, sectioning the trail start to finish. But I had the goal of doing it, and I wanted to turn each day and each hike into its own episode, as opposed to each section. I just wanted it each one day was one episode, and it turned out perfect. It turned out to be exactly what I hoped it would be. I'm very proud of this season. If you were to ask me what I think the best episodes are on this entire podcast, I would definitely say the Northville Placid Trail season is the best work that I've been able to put out yet. So hopefully you guys enjoyed it and have enjoyed it. I know it's beneficial if you are planning to hike the Northville Placid Trail because you'll get pretty familiar with the whole trail throughout. Very happy with how it came out. And actually, it's funny because since I